Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here today. Before we begin our board meeting, we would like to take a brief moment to recognize two brave volunteer firefighters from the North Belmore Fire Department who have serviced their community for over half a century. Ex-Chief Robert Marshall and ex-Chief Timothy Green both joined the North Belmore Fire Department about 50 years ago this month. It is only fitting that we recognize them for their exemplary service to their community and hope that their actions serve as an inspiration for others to join and give of themselves for the betterment of their communities. Ex-Chief Robert Marshall joined Company Number 1 of the North Belmore Fire Department on January 4th, 1968 as a lieutenant and then captain before being promoted to chief of the department. Robert, or Bob, as his family and friends call him, has continued to service his department by serving as a safety officer since 1991 and as a commissioner since 2014. All the while during this time, Bob, along with his wife Ginny, still found time to proudly raise their 3 children and 6 grandchildren. Ex-Chief Timothy Green joined Company Number 2 only a few days after Bob, where he served 3 terms as both lieutenant and captain before being elected chief. Tim served 2 terms as commissioner, is a former chairman of the 6th Battalion Chiefs Association, and a past president of the Nassau County Parade and Drill Team Association as well. Ex-Chief Green continues to serve as a trustee of Company Number 2 and a district engineer. Ex-Chief Green is also a retired Nassau County Fire Marshal and a U.S. Coast Guard Vietnam War veteran. Tim, along with his wife Mary, are proud parents and grandparents of 2 children and grandchildren. Gentlemen, I thank you both for your service to our community and to our town. I now invite Councilman Dennis Dunn to say a few words.
North Belmore is a great fire department. North Belmore, thank you for your service. As is all our departments, I have Levittown in mind, where I live. I have East Meadows in my district, and we have so many fire departments, but it's so needed. These men, for 50 years, were able to get up at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. When we're sleeping, snuggled in our nice warm beds, they're getting up and going and putting life and limb at risk to take care of not only lives, but property. And to me, every day you guys do outstanding work. And to be part of a department for 50 years, if I had a hat, I'd take it off to you. God bless you for what you're doing, and I'm so proud that we're paying attention to you today. We're giving you some notification.
Ex-Chief Green and Marshall, we'd like you to come up and we'll present you with a citation in recognition of your outstanding service to our town and your community. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this regularly scheduled town board meeting. For those of you who have never attended a town board meeting before, we will first have public hearings, followed by an administrative calendar. There are meeting agendas available in the rear of the pavilion. If you wish to be heard on any matters, please go to the rear of the pavilion and fill out a slip, which you can obtain from one of our public safety officers. After the meeting is adjourned, the town board will follow our custom of remaining in session to hear any public comments on any other matters. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman D'Esposito. Councilman Dunn. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Here.
Supervisor Gillen.
Here.
And also in attendance today, we have Receiver of Taxes Donald X. Clavin, Jr.
Thank you very much. Yes, very kind of all, and I'm here.
I would ask you all to please stand, and I call on Councilman Ambrosino to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the first public hearing?
Yes, Supervisor. Petition of Commissioner of Buildings to demolish and remove the 1.5-story wood frame, one-family dwelling with detached garage and remove all litter and debris from the property in Elmont.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anybody who wishes to be heard? May I have a motion then?
Move the public hearing be closed and that petition be adopted. Second motion.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Aye.
And Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. Madam Clerk, will you please call the second public hearing?
Proposed local law regarding regulations and restrictions to limit parking in Oceanside, Uniondale, and West Hempstead.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anybody who wishes to be heard? May I have a motion on the second public hearing?
Supervisor, I move that the public hearing be closed and the local law adopted.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Aye.
And Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call the next public hearing.
Proposed law regarding parking or standing prohibitions in Elmont, Uniondale, Wantagh, West Hempstead, and Woodmere.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anybody who wishes to be heard? May I have a motion on this public hearing?
I move that the public hearing be closed and that adopted.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Aye.
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call the next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding arterial stops in East Meadow and Oceanside.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anybody who wishes to be heard? May I have a motion on the hearing?
I'll make a motion that the hearing be closed and we adopt the item.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Aye.
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call the next public hearing.
Proposed handicap parking on public streets in Belmore, Elmont, Floral Park, Franklin Square, Inwood, Oceanside, and Woodmere.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anybody who wishes to be heard?
Supervisor, I move that the hearing be closed and the item adopted.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. That concludes our public hearings. Madam Clerk, will you please call the administrative calendar?
Supervisor, this morning on the administrative calendar, we have items 1 through 18.
Are there any council members who would like to sever any of the items on the administrative calendar?
Supervisor, I move to sever item number 3.
Item number 3 has been severed. May I have a motion on the rest of the administrative calendar?
in its entirety with the exception of number 3, which has been severed.
Second.
I have a number of slips for those who wish to be heard on the administrative calendar. First, we have Stephanie Capuano. Please approach the table and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Capuano. Is this a general question?
This is what you signed up to be heard on the administrative calendar, I think item number 7.
Yeah, we just want to know, want to ask you if you can please post some of the jobs on the county website. Okay?
Okay, that's probably an item for the public comments section, so you can address that then. But I have you signed in for number 7 on the administrative calendar.
That was number 10, I thought, or 7.
Do you have something that you would wish to discuss on the administrative calendar?
Yeah, it was just about the county website, and then I wanted to talk in the general.
Okay, so you can come back for public comment. Thank you. Felix Procacci. Please state your name and address for the record.
Felix Procacci, 1165 Bond Street, Franklin Square, New York. On case number 7, the hires and promotions and transfers, this is related. Has the town taken any legal action to get rid of the contract amendment for the CSEA that guarantees lifelong employment?
That is not on the administrative calendar, Mr. Procacci. We can just talk about that. I defer to Mr. Raw to discuss our legal action.
Well, the reason why it's related is because on the administrative calendar, I oppose all the wage increases because unless it's contractual for a union member or something like that where we can't back out of it, but all the ones who are ungraded, it's discretionary kind of increases because essentially before that legal action is heard, if that contract is found, that amendment is found to be legal and binding, then essentially all these people essentially implicitly got wage increases because I'm sure most of us would give up part of our salary in order to get lifelong employment guarantee, no layoff. It's worth money. I mean, if you're going to take 2 jobs, one pay $10,000 less than the other, but the one that $10,000 less, well, we give you lifelong employment. We guarantee you'll never be laid off. So that's why I tie the two together because I think they're implicitly tied together. And also to talk about what Stephanie meant, what's also tied to this is the jobs that are offered on this administrative calendar aren't posted on the town's website, and I oppose hiring any new appointees unless the job has been advertised to the public and all residents have been given an opportunity to bid on this job, to apply for the job. So it is implicitly tied together, even though it's not on the calendar per se, but the thing is it speaks to the same problem because the past has always been that these people's friends and family, at the last meeting, a family member of, I think, 2 employees got hired, and there's no application. They just basically, they get preference over everybody else. There's no discrimination.
Mr. Procacci, to answer your question, no, there is no legal action pending. And number 2, the members, employees of the supervisor staff, the receiver of taxes staff, the town clerk staff, and the town board are not covered by the agreement that you referenced.
I understand, but there are people in this who are getting raises who may not be part of that. Look, we all know what happened in December. Yes, there are people who were supposed to leave with the previous administration, but they got transferred. So essentially they get, by legalizing that kind of action, that's a benefit because if I sign on to the Trump administration, I know that I'm gone if he loses the election or if he quits. I'm gone. I lose my job. But that's not what happens. What happens is that political appointee position where you're handsomely paid is protected because what we do is we transfer everybody over to a protected job. So that's really what the problem is, and it's all tied into this. And In particular, Susan Polkowski is being transferred and she's getting an increase in salary. I don't know if people know, she's gotten, since 2011, over a 25% increase in salary, and she has produced, which I'll talk about later, fake news, and I'll talk about that in the administrative calendar. But I oppose that you're transferring people, giving people raises, and there is no action. That's very disturbing that you're not taking any action to get rid of that. So essentially everybody got raises already.
With respect to the raises, Mr. Procacci, my understanding is that the funds for those raises are within the budget for the town board majority, and it's a matter of their discretion to use the budgeted funds as they see fit. I will defer to any council member who's a member of the town board who would like to discuss the raises further.
Well, that's always the case. I mean, I doubt if we ever give raises when it's not in the budget, but the argument is that I'm against giving the raise, and I'm speaking on it, and I'm opposed to it because, once again, these people already got lifetime employment guaranteed. We're not having any legal action against the CSEA memorandum. So they got an increase, and I don't think anyone else brings this up, that it's unfair to the rest of us who have to pay for their lifetime employment, their excessive salaries, and everyone's going to vote aye at the end of the day. And I just want to make it clear that the people who vote aye on these increases are really against the regular working people who have to be fearful of losing their job because there's no parachute for them. Okay, item number 17 on the ethics legislation. You're calling, I hope we don't have that same rule that we had under the Santino administration, that we're not allowed to talk on it, but I think it's important. Back on September, I proposed a whole list of things I wanted to add. I won't go through each one because I don't have time, but I say postpone this and really do a real legislation, real ethics legislation, and not just to protect the few people with the salary cap. I understand I'm against the salary cap too, but make it comprehensive.
Next, we have Rich Shurin.
Good morning. Richard Shurin, 167 Jefferson Avenue, Island Park, New York. Is it correct? I just heard that item number 7, the Deputy Registrar of Vital Statistics, is a position controlled by the board, by the majority on this board. Is that correct?
No, that's the town clerk's office.
Okay, thank you. So which position were you referring to, Supervisor, which is a position within the majority's budget that Mr. Procacci was asking about?
There, on the resolution, there are a number of raises that are going to people within the town board majority that are a part of their budget.
Thank you. I just want to speak in favor of item number 17, the arbitrary income cap on the ethics legislation, which was incredibly abusive and improper to begin with, totally wrong, targeted at certain members, an attempt by prior supervisor and other members to bully people off the board, incredibly inappropriate and sanctioned by Mr. Ra and others here. I think it's high time that definitely should be gotten rid of. It's an important step in correcting some of the improper things that have been done in the past. That's all I have. I have comments on in the miscellaneous calendar as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Diane Madden.
Diane Madden, Hempstead. Item number 17. So just so I understand correctly, that's still on the calendar, that's going to be voted on, which would really directly affect?
This is calling for a public hearing.
Oh, okay. So it's not going to be decided, it's just calling to get it on the calendar?
That's correct.
Okay. then I would agree with Felix Procacci to put this off until further amendments can be made. It needs to be a lot stronger. That is just helping, which I fully support. It should never have been done to them, Sweeney and Blakeman. But the truth of the matter is, as happy as I am to know that this could be, severed and done away with, and, securing them to run again or do whatever they wish, there are still a lot of employees still dealing with bullies on their layers, and they don't have the advantage to be on the board to get that severed and those problems severed. So again, I'm going to agree with Felix to have this really looked at and make it stronger than just this one issue. Thank you.
I do not have any other slips on the administrative calendar. Is there anybody else who wishes to be heard? Please state your name and address for the record.
Problem. Mita J. Meriday, Baldwin, resident. Item number 3, I just need a point of clarification. Is this amendment tied to?
Ms. Meriday, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but item 3 has been severed, so we're going to call that separately.
Okay, what about item 9?
You can speak on item 9.
Thank you. Okay. And sorry for the tardiness, but between the monsoon and having to try to negotiate why I cannot park in visitors parking because 3 spots were reserved, I was a little late. I'll deal with that issue separately. Tree City, USA, I guess that's kind of an honorary designation sort of thing. My concern ties into the fact that this is authorizing the creation of a tree committee, and we have a number of dead trees that need to be investigated by our utility, and we keep bringing this up, and every time we have a major storm or something of that nature with severe winds, those trees that I'm thinking we want to proclaim as a beautiful part of Tree City are detrimental to residents who lose their power or sustain property damage. So I'm just a little curious as to why we're kind of doing this as opposed to putting more emphasis on addressing that when we have power outages that sometimes are significant for residents who need to have their power.
If there are dead trees that you are concerned about, please speak with, you can speak with someone on my staff, Matt Hines, and we'll work with the council person in your district to make sure that any problems are addressed.
Well, most of the trees now, as with some other communities, we don't really know that they're dead until they've actually split, and then we see how hollow they are inside. So I'm not a tree expert, and most of our trees, particularly on my block, were brought down between Sandy and the last 4 nor'easters that we suffered. So I'm just requesting, if possible, this tree committee possibly interact with the public utility to address that. Because at one point, PSC&G had a program where they were actually cutting down the dead trees or pruning, even though on the North Shore they cut down a lot of live trees, but that's a whole nother issue. So I was just a little concerned that we continue to do these surface things for what residents feel are publicity stunts, and actual public safety and home protection measures just seem to fall by the wayside until a major storm hits. So I just wanted to bring that up. I wanted to follow up on a comment that was made based upon a statement that Felix Procacci brought up about the raises, and I believe you said, Supervisor, that the raises are presented at the discretion of the commissioners, and more people are in the room now than those that were in those budget hearings. But we were assured that those increases and things of that nature that were voted on by a majority of folks that are still sitting in front of me, that was a substantial, that was their payment for their job. So I'm just curious as to why 2 months later we're still increasing raises while other people are fighting to maintain their homes, or like the many veterans that I work with that still seem to be missing from these pages of any types of resolutions or actions, are living in fear of foreclosure in their homes. They haven't gotten any raises. They haven't gotten any cost of living adjustments. So it just seems a little disingenuous that we're continuing to raise people's salaries at certain levels, and we are forgetting about those individuals who have to pay for these increases. It just seems to be very disingenuous to me. And I will hold my further comments because I'm not really sure what additional items have been severed, because as I said, I'm still trying to dry out. Thank you.
Next, we have Michael Watt.
Good morning.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Michael Watt. I live at 462 Deer Park Avenue, Babylon, New York. Good morning. My name is Michael Watt. I'm here to speak on behalf of the Reclaim New York Initiative, a 501c4 advocacy organization regarding the proposed amending of Chapter 38 of the Code of the Town of Hempstead Ethical Standards as it pertains to limiting the income elected town officials can earn. Being ethical is like being pregnant. You either are or you aren't. And you are no less pregnant when you're 8 months along than you are at 1 month. So it stands to reason that an elected official's ethics will not be impacted by how much money he or she earns in addition to fulfilling his or her duties as a council person. To insinuate that the more money you earn, the more likely you are to be corrupted is an insult to smart, hardworking people enjoying successful careers. Limiting outside income also serves as a deterrent to attracting successful men and women into public service. Local government can only benefit by having men and women with the work ethic and discipline required to build successful careers, share those talents and resources with their fellow residents. A lot is asked of our elected officials in terms of sacrificing time away from family and fun. The last thing government needs to be doing is demanding they take a significant pay cut as well. How much income is earned by an elected official outside his or her governmental duties is not nearly as important as how that money is made. As long as the outside income stems from performing services unrelated to the elected official's role in the municipality, the amount earned should not be a problem. An elected official taking even $1 in order to exploit his or her position, on the other hand, is unacceptable. Reclaim New York Initiative, therefore.
Mr. Watt?
Yep.
I'm sorry. Right now, for this item, it's really just calling for a public hearing. The public hearing will be on February 6th. This is just calling for the public hearing.
I worked really hard on this.
You're doing an excellent job with your speech.
Made my day. Okay. Never mind.
Is there anybody else who wishes to be heard on the administrative calendar? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll with the exception of item number 3?
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King-Sweeney.
Aye.
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. Madam Clerk, will you please call this severed item?
Severed item number 3, resolution amending resolution number 1301-2017, which sets the dates and times of town board meetings for year 2018 in order to change the start time of the February 20th, 2018, May 22nd, 2018, June 19th, 2018, and September 4th, 2018, to 7 p.m., Town of Hempstead.
Supervisor, I move to amend the item so that this resolution will delete the dates May 22nd, 2018 and September 4th, 2018, with the remaining 2 dates.
Second.
Does anyone wish to be heard on this severed item?
Village Procacci, 1165 Bond Street, Franklin Square. I'd like to know why you want to sever May 22nd and September 4th.
We wanted to have the dates of February and June as the 2 additional night meetings, and since the schedule is already set, people had items on their calendars. Those are the 2 dates that the board could come up with that would work. And then going forward, if it's appropriate to have more, we would have more next year.
Okay, you couldn't come up with, instead of September 4th, the other September 19th or whatever the additional meeting was?
It will be the February meeting in the evening.
I'm saying, but if you couldn't make the May 22nd, I understand that, but just move it over to another May meeting, another August meeting, another September meeting, just make another day that you're available. I understand that you might have an appointment that day or something, but just make it another day as opposed to just knocking it off completely.
Well, I think the fact that we're adding 2 night meetings is great. So I think we start with that, see how it goes, and then next year revisit it.
I go to Floral Park meetings, they have all night meetings. It's 24 night meetings or whatever, 22 night meetings a year. I don't think there's a problem with it. It's just a matter of like many residents. It's, you know, like some people say no more people show up at night than during the day, but people do. It's easier for people who want to participate in government to come at night. For most people do not have the privilege of being able to just take off work and come, you know, at 10:30 in the morning. So
I did put forward the resolution for more evening meetings because it's something that I said I wanted to do, and it was something that I'm pushing for. If we have 2, I would rather have 4, but if we can get 2 passed, then we'll have to go for 2. But I did originally put forward the resolution with 4.
okay, I just say, why not just pick a, you should have all gotten together and say what days work for you, so that we're all in the same room and then we don't conflict with anyone's schedule. It seems like an easy thing to do. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who'd like to be heard on the severed item?
Meta Meriday Baldwin. Yes, I applaud Supervisor Gillen for incorporating this, because I, and again, a few others, were kind of blue in the face with the previous administration to try to request this, and I was the one that was personally told that folks don't come to evening meetings. So I'm hoping, and again, everyone has situations and circumstances that warrant their lack of availability, but I am hoping that this resolution passes in total. If this is a resolution that was presented, that was printed on paper, that taxpayers are paying for, from our understanding from previous hearings and meetings in this forum, that this is what the group has decided on, for the most part, to present to the public. And you stepping forward on this particular campaign promise to increase night meetings, I think we should move forward on this particular resolution as it stands and work towards making sure that all residents who are impacted, and that's every taxpayer in the town of Hempstead, has the opportunity to attend and to be heard, and they need more evening meetings to be able to do that. And for all those who can attend, you're more than welcome. For those who cannot attend, look at the rest of us as far as the taxpayers who cannot come to these daytime meetings, but they are challenged by the decisions that this body makes, so they should be given every opportunity to have their voices heard, because the voices that come here and make our own sacrifices to be here because we feel it's important, we need to have reinforcement from other taxpayers who are suffering. But then again, we have so many zombie houses that the people that were looking to come to these meetings, their voices have been silenced for a variety of reasons. So I'm hoping, again, that this resolution passes as it stands. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to be heard on the severed item? Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on the severed item as amended?
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Aye.
Supervisor Gillen.
Before I vote, I will say that I was in favor of having more night meetings, but I will be voting in favor of the amended resolution because at least we will have 2 more additional evening meetings, and I will continue to talk with the town board about trying to increase the number of town evening meetings beyond just these 2. So I vote aye. May we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Aye.
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. That concludes our formal portion of our town board meeting. We will now move on to public comment. I have a number of slips of people who wish to be heard. Mita Meriday.
Rita Meriday Baldwin. I just read recently about a court decision in Pennsylvania with regard to gerrymandering being ruled having constitutional issues, and I'm just wondering if has there been any discussion with regard to the process that took place in the town of Hempstead in the last couple of years, and when that review process comes up again, because we feel that there's so many underserved constituencies in this township as well as in this county. I'm sorry, Mr. Raw, that you may feel that this is kind of uncomfortable for you because your eyes are kind of spinning around, but it is what it is. I'm just hoping that we have a little more inclusion because it just seems that folks are getting a little comfortable in their seats and the interests of the constituencies are just not being addressed. Secondly, with regard to what clearly, if anyone does not know by now, my passion, which is veterans, as I said earlier, I'm still not seeing anything of substance. Things can be under development and still just be under. That I'm not aware of. And I did find out about an event, maybe it was after the fact, I'm not sure if that was intentional or not. But again, however we salute our veterans, I'm all in support of that. But by the same token, we're still not addressing the major needs, not only of our veteran community, but of residents, as I said earlier, who do not have the opportunity or the access to be here to voice their issues. I mean, our underserved constituencies include our veterans and those diverse businesses that do not seem to get opportunities in the contracts that we have for the township. And just to ask someone to present a list and they will possibly be considered is not effective or comprehensive or, in some locations, legal outreach for procurement, diversity, and inclusion. So those are among my concerns, and as stated earlier, we seem to reward people because of their connections and not necessarily because of what they can bring to the table. And as Mr. Procacci stated earlier, to have to hear at the previous meeting that there were some appointments that were made without any outreach or any inclusion, even through the civil service, was very disappointing to have to hear. So I have to still remain hopeful that Supervisor Gillen, under your administration, and I know you have a lot of work to do, that you do broaden the scope as far as the individuals that you bring to the table to represent our interests, because there's a significant brain trust that sits in the room that still doesn't seem to be tapped, and they speak very loudly, but that does not mean that they lack the intelligence, the integrity, or the sincerity to get the job done for our most vulnerable populations, including our veterans, our animals, our senior citizens, those with individuals with disabilities and things of that nature. So I'm not going to be here all afternoon because I don't earn any money sitting here. You know, the majority of those in the room and of those of you sitting before me, you're going to get paid either way. And I'm among those who have to pay those taxes to help pay your salaries. So I'm just speaking for those who still remain voiceless, who still feel that their issues are not being addressed, who still have concerns, and they just need to know, they need to see, they need to feel and touch the actual actions that people promised back in November, because the struggle is real, the issues are deep, and the concerns are growing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Neriday. I believe that some people from my office have been in touch with you, and some of the council members, staff have been in touch with you. We do care very much about our veterans, and we look forward to working with you to address some of your specific concerns.
And maybe we should have the one that works for the veteran. He works very hard, not only here in Nassau County, but he takes care of the ones that are in Suffolk County as well. And we have some people in the community who work very hard as well with the veterans. So if you want to have Rick come in, he could, you can meet Rick, and Rick could let you know some of the things that we actually do, that we pay for. This town pays for someone to take care of the veterans. Okay, so if you'd like for him to come in, he could tell you more than I can.
I appreciate that, Councilwoman Gooseby, and I've already met with Mr.
Have you met him?
And, yes, I've met with him.
Okay, great.
I've spoken to him.
All right.
I have directed individuals to him, and I've handled some things during that time period when he is not on his appointments or when his schedule does not allow that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
On my own. You're very welcome. But again, I'm still looking for those additional resources, and if we have more of a collaboration of activities, we wouldn't have as many veterans who are living in their homes suffering in silence for foreclosures, and those who are dying within walking distance of this facility. But thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
Stephanie Capuano.
Hi, Lauren. Stephanie Capuano from Wantaw. We are so excited that you got elected, and you know that. And I'm part of the animal community, as you know. So my concerns are for helping we have so many people in Nassau County that help the animals and want to do a better job. So what I'm asking for you is we're committed to you. We're committed to helping our animals. Can you please reinstate Stanley Lombardo to the Oceanside land site? We are asking you, and we just want to know that time is of the essence, and that we're just asking you, this is all we have is the here and now. And I have faith that this will happen, and I would prefer it to be sooner than later. And that's all I'm asking.
Okay, thank you. I believe Mr. Lombardo visited the cats at the landfill.
Yeah, but we want him to be reinstated, and I was just wondering if you could get back.
Supervisor, the item's under litigation, so we should discuss it.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll hear something about that soon, or? All right, thanks.
Next, we have Jack McCloy.
Good morning. Jack McCloy, 956 East Stanton Avenue, Baldwin, New York. I contacted, first of all, congratulations, Supervisor Gillen, and thank you, all members of the board, for allowing me to address you today. I wanted to let you know that I contacted your office last week, and I was concerned about something that happened in my community, which is an application for a conversion of a dry cleaning business to a coin laundry. And I was told that although that's handled by the appeals board, I might be able to address you to be familiar with what's happening because you are all concerned about what's happening on Long Island. And here is the copy of the original application that was denied unanimously.
Sir, I'm sorry. Can you just give the address one more time? I apologize.
My address?
No, the address of the location.
The address is, let's see, northwest corner, Grand Avenue and Willis Street, also known as 1170 Grand Avenue, South Hempstead.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I have copies of the original application for hearing and denial notice. The reason why I'm here today is I wanted to point out to you that when the application was originally denied, copies were sent to me and those who spoke at that initial hearing back in April of 2017. And yet, when it was reapplied for consideration, those who took time to voice their concern at that appeals meeting were not notified that a new application was put into play. I also contacted others who spoke against that application at that time to ask if they were notified, and maybe my notification that it was reapplied got lost in the mail, but others, including some who are here today behind me, were opponents of that application and also not notified. The first thing that I wanted to ask is that in future situations where people take their time to come to an appeals hearing and voice their concern, fill out a speaker's slip, provide their home address so they can be communicated with, and if a decision of denial occurs, could those people be notified if a reapplication is submitted so people like myself that would have taken the time to come to a new hearing are notified so we can speak up once again? That's my first request, that with your new administration, since you do have that information of speakers that are interested in a particular application, be re-notified if it's submitted again on the calendar. The part that...
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mr. McCloy. Mr. Raw, the Board of Zoning Appeals is independent, and we do not control their protocols. Is that correct?
That's correct. But let me ask you something. Did they have a rehearing? I'm not familiar with the case. They had a rehearing?
The rehearing was held on December 14th, and it is currently on reserve.
Well, you should have been notified. We'll check with the Board of Zoning Appeals on it. Do you know the name of the applicant?
Well, I was told by Mr. Regina of the Board of Appeals that they only send out notifications of renewed application to those people who are within 300 feet of the location. I think that if anybody is concerned about what's happening in their community, whether they're within 300 feet or not, they should be notified. But I do want to mention to all of you who are concerned about what's happening in communities across Long Island that for this particular situation of conversion from a dry cleaning business to a coin laundry, I am an expert in this field. I worked for over a decade for one of the world's largest manufacturers of commercial coin laundry equipment, and I could tell you that this location that is seeking application for conversion is woefully undersized for parking. For a dry cleaning business, and I'll make this quick, people tend to spend no more than 5 minutes to drop their dry cleaning off, pick up whatever's there, and leave. For a coin laundry business, people bring their laundry in, they stay for approximately 40 minutes for the washer to complete its cycle, then put it into the dryer for another 40 plus minutes. They're there for 90 minutes instead of 5 minutes. You need, for 82 machines, at least 41 or very close to it parking spaces. This location has 15. It
Mr.
is
McCloy.
woefully undersized, and I hope that you might be able to convey to those who are considering the decision on reserve that they seriously look at what I presented in the initial hearing to decide whether this is a proper use for conversion. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Albert Yeagers here. He's secretary to the board, so he can maybe address some of the issues you raised.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. I just wanted to give some, my name is Al Jagers. I am secretary to the board of the Board of Appeals. I just wanted to give some information on applications and the kind of notice that is given and the procedures. As previously pointed out, the Board of Appeals is a separate independent entity from the town board in their decisions and the rulings that they make. In terms of an application, when it comes to commercial applications, a applicant must have a radius map which shows, as pointed out, 300 feet. All of those people that are in that radius must be given notice. The lists for those notices, they come from the Nassau County, so that's where the lists come from. The applicant is required to give notice based on those lists. They have to certify through an affidavit of mailing that is done a certain time before the hearing, and all of those people are addressed with the letter in that regard. In addition to that, for commercial cases, a sign has to be posted on the property, and that is also done within a certain window before the hearing to also give proper notice. Under those requirements, the applicant, if it's done in those fashions, they meet the requirement for the notice being given. For the people that do attend the hearing, they do sign in. They are given ample time to voice their opinion on the hearings that come up. It is also, as here, it is also available on the live stream. We also do archive it so that people can go back and look at hearings that have already passed. And people who do sign in, they do get a copy of the decision so they can be aware of what had partaked on that particular day.
Do you provide notice to the people who attended the meeting?
Correct.
So Mr. McCloy was he given notice?
I would have to go back and look to see on the list, see if he was on the list, if there was any discrepancy with that. But if the person goes to the town and goes to the Nassau County and they get the list and they fill out the affidavit, we go along with that sworn statement.
Okay, well, if you would just look into that, and please be sure that people who attend meetings are given the proper notice that they're required to be given.
I will, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, you've already had your time. You can speak to Mr. Yeager. You can speak with Mr. Ra, and we can speak afterwards. Next, we have Lucille DeFina.
Good afternoon. I wasn't going to speak today, but...
Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Lucille DeFina, Merrick, New York. But I do feel it's important to speak to you, Supervisor Gillen. And it's hard for me to come up here and be patient, but I'm trying to be patient. I actually wrote down what I want to say to you because I want to make sure I don't go off track and get carried away, because I am upset. We are upset. We are very upset for every day that passes by that the animals are still going through what they're going through at the shelter. So I just want to say that, as you should know, the previous administration are masters at stalling and creating roadblocks. I think you know that. There are a few minor actions that you should have already been able to easily address and accomplish, especially the ones concerning the animal issues that you heard us scream about for the past year and throughout your entire campaign. That seems to be obstructed, and that's a problem. I am still under the belief, Supervisor Gillen, and I don't want you to think that I'm not, but I do believe that you took this position and you were there for all the right reasons. Please understand, if you are being given excuses as to why most of your promises have not come to fruition, then maybe it's because your trusted appointees are still being roadblocked, which I'm sure they are, lied to, and outsmarted. Or there is a possibility that they too are on the fence, and maybe they're not completely on your side. I'm begging you to please stay on track and please come through with the promises throughout your campaign for the animals. Thank you.
Thank you. We are very much committed into looking into the animal shelter and addressing any problems that we find there. I've been working with several members of the town board to make sure that any concerns are addressed. Next, we have Jim Alkus.
Jim Alkus, Amityville, New York. First, I'd like to say, wow, it's a pleasure to watch a civil meeting. And I think you guys are doing very well so far. I'm here today not to discuss what I've been discussing, because Mr. Rao worked something out, I think. We're coming to a conclusion. But I know you're only 21 days into the new administration, and it appears you're all working together as a team, which I hope you continue to. But as I said in 2 meetings ago, or whatever, my experience is I've had approximately 32 years in my life I've sat on boards. Some I've been president of, some I've not. But the one thing I did notice in your appointed boards, which I hope that you'll all take a look at, is that maybe you could take a look and see if you need change. Possibly some boards in some other municipalities, I would never tell you guys what to do, but they appoint an attorney to sit with them. So at least they're doing it properly and they're conducting themselves well. But I could tell you that from what I've seen in your board, I've never seen anything like it since elementary school. So I hope that it's not just because they're part of one of the committees and that's why they're on the boards. I think you should have qualified people that know what they're doing. And I think that's important. One thing I got out of reading your minutes is one of your boards, which I had a foil for, they don't want anybody to get a license unless they live in Hempstead. Now, they happened to go to the town attorney with that in the building department, and they told them that they couldn't do that. But at least you can see where their mind's at. If you don't live in Hempstead, they don't want you to have a license. That's the board's personal opinion, which again, they thanks to the attorney's office, they did get squashed. But, you know, the best plumbers in New York City come from Nassau and Suffolk for Local 1. And, you know, if the city said we had to live in a city, you know, all those sky rises wouldn't go up. I think it's important to have qualified people. I don't think it's where you reside. I just thought you should know that because that's your current chairman's opinion. But I hope that the rest of the board will revisit it with the new supervisor and just take a look. That's all I ask. I just ask to take a fresh look, and maybe you don't have the most qualified people in the spots that are representing you. And from dealing with basically most municipalities on Long Island, you know, I mean, your municipality has been running a little different.
Sir, can I just ask you a question? Because I did do some research over the last month when you started coming to the meetings. Obviously, I'm not a plumber, so I don't understand the everything about it. But from what I read in the notes, do you have a Town of Hempstead license?
Yes.
You
Yeah,
do?
I'm licensed everywhere on Long Island.
Okay. Got it. Okay. So you have a license, but it's reciprocal? Is that how they explain it?
It's very complicated.
Okay. We'll talk sometimes out, but I just wanted to understand. So you do have the ability to be a plumber in the Town of Hempstead?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been licensed in Hempstead for several years.
Understood. Okay.
But anyway, that was my thing. I just hope that the rest of the board, I know that there's some great individuals up there, that you guys would take it to, and I know you're only 21 days in, so you got a lot of other important things you have to do. But I think you should definitely take a look. And that's just my opinion. But good luck, and I hope all the meetings wind up being like this, because the first time I came, I actually thought it was half Democrats and half Republicans. I really couldn't believe it. But, you know, the decorum today is amazing, and I hope it stays this way, and hopefully you guys can amicably work together. Good luck.
Thank you. Next, we have Art Gibson.
Art Gibson, 2123 Fifth Avenue, Ronkonkoma, New York. Good morning, Supervisor Curran, Supervisor Gillen, excuse me.
Good morning.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the board. So, I am a plumber, and I'd like to speak about that real quickly. Myself and all of my members, I'm a representative for Plumbers Local Union 200. We cover both Nassau and Suffolk counties. All of my members, including myself, has had to gone to school for 5 years in conjunction with working full-time during the days for that 5-year period to become a plumber. But yet still, for us to take a test in any one of the 64 plumber's licenses that you need to do business in Nassau and Suffolk County, I would still have to work an additional 2 years full-time as a plumber under a master plumber's license in order just to be eligible to take that test. They make these tests very hard because plumbing is hard. The plumber protects the health of the nation. What comes out of your faucet could be directly in response to what I allow to get back through my system. So the diseases and everything else that made the human age take the big step that we've taken, it wasn't vaccines, it was plumbing. It was the protection of the water. So that being said, they make these tests to be hard. If you're not a plumber, you shouldn't be able to pass the test. All right, it's the protection of all of us. Reciprocal license, that's where you have one in one town and they will honor it in other places. Many towns don't. Across Nassau and Suffolk counties, they don't. They want you to have a master plumber's license. I respect the fact that the town of Hempstead is one of the few that doesn't give you a restricted plumber's license, which allows you to come in and do a water heater or to do a boiler. Because that always leads to problems. Because now a guy is in the house, he's calling himself a plumber. Believe me, a fuel oil company is not a plumber. They're a fuel oil company. They're not a plumber. To be a plumber, you have to pass that test. These tests should be rigid, again, I'll repeat it, to protect the health of the nation. And I commend your plumbing board for what they do. I deal with every one of them in both Nassau and Suffolk County. They all run pretty much the same, and they all do a good job.
Sir, I'm sorry, can I just ask, can you just explain quickly, I know it's complicated, but the reciprocal license, so basically how I understand it is if someone has a license in a neighboring municipality, the municipality has the authority, if they decide, to issue a reciprocal license only to do plumbing in that area, is that?
Well, it depends. Like the town of Hempstead might be reciprocal with the town of North Hempstead.
Okay.
Also the town of Oyster Bay. Islip will be reciprocal with Babylon, and I believe they're reciprocal with the town of Hempstead, but not Long Beach, or not this other place, or not the
villages,
or not the 59 other places.
Understood. Okay.
Listen, everybody has their own plumbing board, and they would like to have their own autonomy. Nobody wants to give up their little piece of power, and we all get that. Would it be good if there was one master plumber's license? As long as it wouldn't affect anybody's job or their abilities to do the inspections to protect everybody in their own, respected neighborhoods. I think that's all I have on this issue. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. It's hard to become a plumber. It's hard to pass those tests. That's it. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have Pat Miller.
Hi.
Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Absolutely. Patty O'Miller, and I'm in lovely downtown East Meadow. East Meadow, the meadow that is east of here. I'm here to express my concern and also voice support for the upcoming changes. Our well-funded shelter is a mess. The remaining dedicated staff that are still there and have been hanging on are putting in unbelievable Herculean efforts, yet stumbling blocks are still being thrown in their way every single day. Last week, a cold January day, no enrichment for the animals. It's disturbing to see again repetitive cage behaviors. Last week, seeing the skin conditions worsen on several of the vulnerable dogs. Why? Because the raised beds that we fundraised for a couple of years ago were never maintained by the staff. The enrichment is a great and very important program that was in full swing when I first went back to the shelter. I've been in and out of the shelter for decades. And it really was doing a really terrific job of keeping the dogs sane for their extended stays. And we're looking forward to, hopefully, with the next group of people that come in to run the shelter, to reconstitute all of these programs that have been, I'm going to put this away. It's a mess. We really need help. We're really looking to you to make the changes happen so that the good people that are still there can do their jobs well. There's been a lot of deficits in putting out information, events that were not made popular enough for people to take part in. The cats are being shipped out to places like Massachusetts with no explanation. I do a lot of cat things outside of the shelter, and 20 and 30 cats at a time are shipped out to Massachusetts, and nobody can really answer why or how that even happens. They were shipped up to Dutchess County for a while. A couple of other rescue people had seen them up there in a kill shelter. These kinds of behaviors are concerning. We have a very large budget. We have a lot of people that want to make it really a fantastic adoption center. So hopefully in the next little while, we will see the changes come, and we'll see transparency. What rescues are there? Where do the animals go? What kind of money is involved? Because when you have animals go to rescue that don't have to, in different example from Nassau to Brooklyn, and yet the people are charged the several $100s when it should have been free to people that live here and pay toward the shelter. All of these little nuances in the everyday running of the shelter with changes can really come to make this one of the best places really on the East Coast, because we have one of the biggest budgets and we have staff that have been hanging on looking for recognition. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Karen Montalbano.
Karen Montalbano, 2611 Park Avenue, Baldwin, New York. I also happen to be president of the Baldwin Civic Association. I'm returning back to Mr. McCloy's particular item, which is the cleaners on Grand and Willis. Baldwin Civic Association and the Baldwin Oaks Civic Association oppose this, mainly for a number of reasons, but mainly the parking is a big issue. And I understand that the BZA is a separate entity. But when somebody has come before the BZA, all right, and has an interest in a particular thing, as this particular variance, and then doesn't get notified in some cases of the outcome, but more so if the variance is coming up again and it's the same thing, these same people still have the interest. And I'd like to see if there's a way we can get these people notified so that they're still in the circle, because they haven't lost the interest if they've come in and they've actually testified about it. So I would like to see if we could relook at the notifications of interested parties. Now, I know this is not something you can't do, but since I'm here, is there some way that we can go to the Board of Zoning Appeals and be able to ask them to reconsider some of these?
Ms. Montalbano, we're going to look into it. We believe people who attended the meeting should have been given notice, so we're looking into that on our end.
Okay. Is there another way of following up on this as well? Does the Board of Zoning Appeals have?
As the supervisor said, they should have been notified. There is no further rules or ordinances we'd have to pass. If they were at the first hearing, they should have been notified. Okay. And the supervisor has directed that we look into this to find out what happened, and we're doing that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Terry Winston.
Good morning. My name is Terry Winston. I live in the village of Hempstead. Supervisor Gillen, I know that at the last meeting, I had inquired about who oversees the town of Hempstead IDA. I'm aware that, because you stated it, that you said that you don't have any jurisdiction over them. But this doesn't involve them per se. It involves the behavior of the public safety officers. So perhaps you can advise me who has jurisdiction over them when I get finished explaining to you what transpired. Myself and Mrs. Gary were present at an LDC meeting that was hosted by the town of Hempstead IDA. Mr. Fred Parola, without any just cause, called for security. I left prior to their arrival and was conversing in the hallway with Mrs. Gary. The public safety officers approached us, and we were informed that we had to leave. I then stated that we were just having a conversation, and although we were still on the second floor, we weren't in close proximity to the town of Hempstead IDA office. We were then informed by the public safety officer that not only were we to leave the second floor, we were to vacate the premises altogether. And I was just wondering what gives them the authority to do so, considering the fact that I was civil, and in spite of the fact that I was being treated unprofessionally and disrespected. What gives them the authority to remove me from the building, considering that there are other entities in this building?
On a purely legal basis, I'm not talking about protocol, I'm not talking about manners, we're just talking about on a purely legal basis. If you're standing in a hallway and your business at the town of Hempstead is completed and you're not in any town office and you're standing in a hallway, the public safety officer would have the authority to do that. Should he have, or should she have? I don't know. We'll look into. Well, can you tell me what date this happened? What the date of it is, and we'll look into it.
Well, I'd have to get the date for you.
Okay. And you know, the idea could be that they thought that maybe there was a disturbance being created. I understand. That's why we have to look into it, because no one here was there. So we'll look into it for you. If you could just give me the date that it happened.
Well, he was there. He could probably give you the date. He was the one that told us to leave. This gentleman right here. Right here. This public safety officer right there. Well, he might be able to help you, but I'll give you that information. Another situation involving the public safety officers is, of course, I believe one person was complaining about the parking, and I've been going through this for years, but I think it's a crying shame that I have to park on Front Street, have to cross Front Street, because there's no parking in the parking lot. And I don't care what time I get here, those visitor parking spaces are always taken. And I have to argue with the public safety officers because how many visitors come here? All right, I know you probably don't expect a lot, but there should be spaces that are allocated for visitors and no one else. I mean, the employees get parking spaces.
We'll look into
I shouldn't have to get here like 2 hours in advance just so I can get a spot. They don't. They just pull up into a spot and then that's it.
I understand it's hard to find a parking spot, and we'll look into the parking issue. Also, we'll take your information after the meeting. You can speak with someone on my staff, and they'll take your information. We'll look into the incident that you just described.
And another thing with the public safety officers, they really need to work on their people skills. You know, they really do. Not all of them. Some of them are very professional, and they stay within the bounds of the scope of whatever they're supposed to be doing. But some of them, seriously, they really are out of bounds.
You can let us know of any specific incidents that you want to discuss. Rich Shuren.
Richard Shuren, 167 Jefferson Avenue, Highland Park, New York. Before I start, I just want to say, the last two meetings, Mr. Clavin has come up for what seems like a PR shot or something. I don't know why he doesn't stay for the whole meeting. Some of the things that I want to address, I would like to address to him, but I just don't understand why the gentleman comes at the beginning of the meeting is announced and then doesn't stay for any of it. It's obviously political or something. But I want to speak.
Hold on, just about Mr. Clavin. I mean, he doesn't have a vote on the town board, so I think that's the reason why. I'm sure we're more than happy to talk to you, and we could schedule a meeting.
Why does he have a space on the dais then?
Well, he doesn't vote on the town board. I don't want to speak to Mr. Clavin's schedule. I have no idea, but I don't think him being here or not being here is a political stunt by him at all. Okay, and he works very hard, and if you want to try to have a meeting with him, I'm sure he's more than happy to meet with you.
It relates to what I'm about to say. I reside in Island Park. I've said before, I've mentioned before, and as Mr. D'Esposito knows, Island Park is in a battle for its life against LIPA concerning the assessment on the Barrett Power Plant. LIPA is seeking a 90% reduction in their taxes, and our school district receives 47%, 48%, I think, of their budget from LIPA taxes. It's been estimated that every homeowner's taxes will go up $3,000 on average if LIPA is successful. It's very important that the word gets out that this is an existential threat to our school district, to every member of our community. We've been battling for 7 years with LIPA on this subject. When we all purchased our homes in Island Park, it was with the understanding that, yes, there's a disgusting, polluting, dangerous power plant in our town, in our vicinity, but the trade-off was that we received the extra tax revenue, and as a result, we have very good schools, and we have slightly lower taxes than other communities. That's the trade-off. Now they're not seeking to close the plant; they're just seeking to lower their taxes by 90%. Basically, we have a social contract, a moral contract, and even perhaps a legal contract with them that in return for putting up with this disgusting, dangerous power plant, they're to support our community with their taxes, and they're trying to break that agreement. And we need the support of everyone in that fight. What brings me to Mr. Clavin was last week, the Councilman D'Esposito and Don Clavin had a press statement on this subject in Island Park. In my opinion, I watched it. In my opinion, it was uninformed. It wasn't bipartisan. It should be a bipartisan issue. This is not a partisan issue. I believe that there were statements made that the community was seeking to repower the plant, which is completely incorrect. We're not seeking to repower that plant, which many people are against, many good people are against, I'm against. I'm not interested in spending billions of dollars to repower a plant. We're just asking that they keep their promise. As a result of that press release statement that Mr. Clavin was participating in. Newsday came out with an editorial against us, saying that it was pandering and that we shouldn't be seeking to repower the plant. It was that was based on misinformation. So I'm urging this board and anyone who's interested in supporting us to work together, work with our council who has a strategy to fight this. Don't let it be perceived as a partisan issue, because it isn't. It's a bipartisan issue. Invite everyone to these press releases. Coordinate with everyone you can. State Senator Kaminsky is working on our behalf. Others are working on our behalf. Please coordinate. It's too important to turn into a political stunt. Mr. Clavin, I don't know why he was there. I'm just, pleading with you to please help us in this regard. And I have one other thing I'd like to say.
If I can comment on that first. First of all, let's be as transparent as possible here. All right. I could have had a press conference last week announcing that I was personally coming up with the money to cover LIPA and our issue in the school district, and you would still have an issue with it. Everything that I say, Rich, let me finish. I let you speak, now let me finish. Everything that I say, everything that I do, everything that I'm involved in, you are completely against. It's happened since day one. Listen, this is a democracy. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but we're also entitled to speak respectfully to one another. When you go on Facebook and social media behind the keyboard calling Don Clavin and I nitwits, have I ever called you a nitwit? I haven't, and I never will. And if you'd like to have a respectful conversation, and like you mentioned, you're against repowering the plant. That's your opinion. I respect the Newsday writers. That was their opinion. Okay, I did what I had to do. I stuck up for my community just like I have been. I may not be on all the social media pages typing about it. I may not be front and center at the library writing about it. But let me tell you something. I care about the community. I care about Island Park. And you know what? At the very least, if last week the press conference that Don Clavin and I did brought some light to it and encouraged people. I mean, I've spoken to members of the PTA. I've spoken to members of the school board, and they said that since last week there has been an uptick in people interested. You know what? I mean, Dr. Bavino is there, who's the superintendent of schools. The president of the school board is there. Everything that was written and disseminated from our offices passed through the council to the school board first. So if you're going to tell me that this council to the school board in the middle of litigation, who's representing the district, read through the press release and read through what we were going to say in the middle of litigation, and then said to the superintendent and members of the school board and other members of the administration, yeah, go ahead, it's not even though it's completely against our message, go anyway, I find that hard to believe. I really do. And like I mentioned before, if you'd like to start an open dialogue, not on Facebook, not on social media, and you want to have an open dialogue, I'd be happy to do it. But let's do it respectfully.
I want to let you know, Mr. Shuren, that I share your concerns. In the interest of disclosure, my brother is actually a teacher in the Island Park School District, so I am aware of this issue. I'd be happy to sit down with you. I do think that our interests are aligned on this board, that we want to look out for our residents in Island Park to the best of our ability. I will be meeting with Senator Kaminsky also to discuss this issue. I cannot speak to the press conference last week because I was not invited to that press conference, so I don't know anything. I can't really speak to that. But other than that, I do know that Councilman Diaz-Bazito clearly has an interest in helping the residents of Island Park, as do I. So I look forward to discussing this further with you.
And with that being said, I also spoke to Senator Kaminsky and Assemblywoman Miller, who were both in Albany on that day for the budget review by the governor.
Since I was attacked personally, I have to say I've been working on this issue for 7 or 8 years.
I didn't say you haven't been.
And you haven't been there through any of it.
Okay.
Just showed up 6 months, about six months ago, maybe a year ago. I
disagree, but okay.
I personally attended meetings with the LIPA president and Denise Ford. I haven't been partisan in this issue at all, Anthony.
You're partisan in everything.
Well, it's inappropriate. It's inappropriate for you to say that. You know that. I'm not certainly on this issue. I disagree with a lot of things you do, which I think harm our community, and I certainly disagree with this poorly planned PR event, which resulted in negative press for us, and obviously what had the appearance of a partisan event. Even if that wasn't your intent, it had the appearance. It was Newsday perceived it as a partisan event, and therefore issued a very negative editorial as a result. So,
But I don't work, with all respect to Newsday, I don't work for the opinion of Newsday. Okay? And I understand that you've been involved in this for a while, and I appreciate it. And I really do. I appreciate your hard work. Let me finish. I appreciate your efforts on behalf of the community. But let's be honest with one another. If you want to have an open communication about this, let's do it. Let's meet and have communication. Let's not go on Facebook and disrespect one another, calling people nitwits. I mean, is that fair?
I believe your statement was uninformed. And if you cared about this issue, you would.
But you did call me a nitwit.
I have my telephone number. You could call me. I've been in this.
Okay,
And you have the number here. You could call us as well.
I think we should continue this discussion outside of this meeting right now. Mr. Shuren, I'd be happy to address any concerns you have and meet with you, and perhaps Councilman D'Esposito can join us to talk about the issues with the power plant.
Thank you.
Pearl Jacobs.
Good afternoon, Pearl Jacobs, Uniondale, representing the Nostrand Garden Civic Association in Uniondale. Good afternoon, Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. At the last town meeting of January 9th, I asked if you would meet with myself and a few members of the board of the Nostrand Garden Civic Association once a month to discuss and to formulate plans of action to assist in alleviating the issues that continue to have a negative impact on the quality of life for the taxpaying residents of Uniondale. At the Town of Hempstead Zoning Board meeting on January 17th, which you attended and supported Uniondale residents, and we thank you for that, residents opposed yet another laundromat in Uniondale. You heard the voice of the residents who attended this meeting. They stated loud and clear that the Town of Hempstead has failed Uniondale and attributes Uniondale's decline in quality of life by failing to enforce building code enforcement, among other enforcements. It is clearly a failure by the Town of Hempstead in building code enforcement when Uniondale at this time requires 8 laundromats, 750 washers and dryers for a residential community that is a mere 2.5 square miles. Uniondale is a community in need. It is the consensus of the majority of residents that their basic quality of life is declining. The consensus of the community is that additional resources need to be allocated to communities in need to help reverse this downward trend of decline. And this decline is a direct result of disinvestment, exclusion, and basic neglect that was systematically and still is systematically inflicted upon minority communities. Supervisor Gillen, you just got here, so I know I'm not directing this directly to you. Your predecessors. Several years ago, Senior Councilwoman Gooseby, I know you remember this, my Vice President and I, Heidi Sampt, and I advocated for the Town of Hempstead to pass an ordinance that would require business owners and residential property owners to keep the sidewalks in up to 18 inches from their curbs swept in order to alleviate the trash and debris that is left to accumulate. Heidi and I spent countless hours in meetings with you and your staff only to be informed that such an ordinance could not be passed due to excessive legalities. I want to stop here and ask Attorney Ra, why, what are the excessive legalities where we can't get a simple ordinance passed that neighbors have to sweep, you know, sweep in front of their sidewalks, business has to sweep in front of their sidewalks up into 18 inches into the curb. They have the same law in Queens. Why can it not be passed here?
They're responsible for the sidewalks in front of their stores. We have ordinances on the books for that.
Well, you wouldn't know that. You would not know that. Okay, so there we go with a breakdown and no code enforcement. Now, regarding the residential homes, do they have a responsibility to keep their sidewalks
The
clean?
homeowner is responsible for the area between their property line and the curb.
Well, you wouldn't know that either. So there's a severe breakdown, a severe neglect in the code enforcement in Uniondale, not only with the buildings, but with sanitation. Okay, so I want to continue and then... why can you said, Attorney Ra, that there is an ordinance? Would you provide me with that ordinance, please? Thank you. So I again ask that the Board of the Nostra Garden Civic Association meet with you once a month, Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
I would if I could. I'm sorry, I will not meet with you once a month. I've asked you anything that you see that is incorrect, please send it to the office and we will address it. I have my commissioner of buildings out over there. They have put extra people into your community. Would you come and tell her what we've done for Uniondale? But it's never enough. I personally drive around Uniondale, and I see so many things that are incorrect, which we have addressed without your knowledge. Now, especially the park at Smith Street, that whole area that you've gone over there, you would have seen a lot of things that were incorrect. They corrected it. And also a lot of areas in Uniondale that you never attend, you don't go to. So I really resent some of the things that you're saying, because we've been working with you the whole time. We can never do enough for Uniondale. But excuse me, I listen to you. I listen to you. I listen to you. I listen to you. Would you listen to me first? Would you please sit and tell her all the things that we do for Uniondale? We spend extra money with all of the extra staff that we put over there just to make sure that we try to please you. But we don't get any praise for any of it. I did come to the BZA meeting, and it's not because the town of Hempstead causes laundromats to come in. You know that. The laundromats as a business, there was a business there. And because a business was there, someone came and he wants to put in a laundromat. But as you heard, we talked about that. We turned it down here because it's not, you don't have enough parking spaces. But we talked about that in the BZA meeting. They needed 48 spaces. They said they had 40. But then when our building inspectors went to find it, they only have 20. And I sat there and explained that to them. How can you have a laundromat with all the machines and so forth that they say they're going to put in with only 20 parking spots, and then you have 2 stores that are coming in? So by the time people came to do their laundry, and they sat there and waited, because, you know, you got to do your laundry. It's going to take at least 2 hours and a half. And you only have 20 spaces, but yet you have stores that are also there. So 20 spaces is all they had. They need 48, and we did address that issue. So I know you may not be pleased with it, but that's the way the law goes. We spoke to them. It is reserved, so you don't know what's going to happen. The town of Hempstead zoning did not cause laundromats to come in. So that I heard you say that, and that's incorrect. So please state what is factual. And would you speak now?
Is my mic working?
Yeah, it is.
I'm saying what the failure of the town of Hempstead to enforce its coding, its building codes, where you have multiple people, okay, where you have upwards of 20 people living in one home, okay? Failure of the town of Hempstead to enforce its code enforcement is what drives the magnitude of laundromats in the area. And I state that, and it's factual.
Well, I'm not going to argue with you, but if you have that many people living in a home, why don't you turn it in to us? I'd give you, you know how to reach us. You can send whatever you find to us, and would be helpful for us. That's what a civic association should do.
Councilwoman Goolsbee, listen, I work, okay? I work harder working for my community than I did for my job. I just recently retired, okay? And I'm working harder for my community than I did for my job, okay? When I worked in my job 60 hours a week, okay, I still came and I still advocated for my community, okay? And I am not getting paid by the town of Hempstead. You have code enforcers. I'm on the phone with them. Okay, I do send you letters. I send my own resources. I take pictures. I write letters. I mean, I might as well be work. I don't get paid for this, okay? But I do work for my community, and I do not get paid. I get my intrinsic satisfaction is what I get for taking pride in working in my community. And I am not, and I would not spend, I have so many better things to do, Senior Councilwoman Goolsbee, with my time than to come here and spew falsities. Okay, I'm not delusional, and I don't live in a land of make-believe, okay? Uniondale is in dire need of help, and if you cannot sit with us, as my councilwoman, I'm asking you for an hour, one hour a month.
I'm sorry,
then I will defer to Supervisor Gillen if we can meet with you, please.
No, she's not, because you're in my district.
She's your boss. She is your boss.
No.
Ms. Jacobs,
Oh, wow, I'm done.
Ms. Jacobs,
She will
if you
not
have,
do it without me.
if
And
you
I've
have
told you
specific
before.
concerns, you can let me know.
I will,
And feel
Supervisor.
free to send invitations to events, and we'd be happy to.
Supervisor, you're incorrect, because first of all, it is my district that I'm responsible, and I work very, very hard in that district. And it's not fair for you to say that you'll meet with people in our districts without our presence.
I will contact you, and I would like to sit with you. Thank you
Then
so
you're
much,
going
Supervisor
around me.
Gillen.
That's not right.
I'm not going around you.
Yes, you are. You have
All
no
right,
right
we'll
to
talk
do
about
that.
this after.
Okay, I'll have to call and take care of that.
Ms. Harris?
If you're going to run the whole board, you might as well do it all.
Can you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Patty Harris. I live in Uniondale. I am a taxpayer of Uniondale. I've been raised in Uniondale since I went to junior high there, so I've been there quite a few years. So I see the difference of when I was a child until now. There's a big difference going on. But today, I'm talking about an area that there was a lot of communities represent that a part of Uniondale is still being called East Garden City. I see it on the news. I actually have an accident report that my daughter had a car accident, and they put on here, the town of Hempstead, 791 Stewart Avenue, East Garden City. There's no such place as East Garden City on that side. So I would like to know, because there was a resolution that they wasn't supposed to be calling that area East Garden City. So that means it's programmed into the police department's database from the town.
Maybe the supervisor can answer it.
Can you?
This board has done everything it could do, everything within its power, to change our maps and to get rid of the designation of East Garden City. Councilwoman Gooseby met with Senator Schumer, Kathleen Rice, Congresswoman Rice. There was a resolution passed by this board to the Census Bureau telling them in the new census, which is 2020, that the designation should go by. We cannot control what people write on an accident report. We cannot control if it's Nassau County or another jurisdiction. We can't control that. We took down all our signs that say East Garden City. We've done everything we can. So I would suggest to you respectfully that whoever the author of the accident report is, that would be the jurisdiction or the municipality that you should go to. But it's certainly.
Don't I pay taxes for you to do that?
Excuse me?
I pay taxes, right? I own my own house, so I pay taxes to the town, to the county, right?
Who wrote the police department? Do you have the name of the
Nassau
officer?
County Police Department.
Okay, we can contact them for you and let them know. We do have an audience, and we have a resolution that was passed, which those two people back there know about. They know that it happened. We worked very hard on that, along with Congressman Rice. So it was all done. So it's not our doing it. You heard what the attorney said.
It's all you do.
Okay, so it's just those people. So you could talk to them too.
Okay, also, do you have an update on the stripping of the name of Uniondale off of the water tower?
I don't. We could not find that. We couldn't know. We're sent to people who've been here a long time. They don't remember seeing it on there. We have no proof that it was done.
Oh, that it was taken off?
That's right. We have no proof.
If there's no name on there, then it was taken off. You can see that for yourself.
No, I cannot. And we had someone look at that, and they're saying that it never was.
If you pull up
I don't
over
know.
where it's at, you will not see Uniondale's name on it no more. You can see the silhouette, how you take something off, you can see the silhouette. That's what you see on you. You still can see that part, but you do not see the full name in black lettering stating Uniondale on that water tower. Since they built up those new luxury, I guess it was a hotel or rental, whatever, leasing over there, the name has been stripped off of the water tower. For some reason, I don't understand why the commercial base is so popular to be taken from Uniondale. It's like you're stripping us. You're just closing us in, taking the commercial area from Uniondale. When that's been Uniondale for years.
Good morning, Councilwoman. When this issue was raised back, I believe it was in November or December, we had done research on the last 3 times the tank was painted, and we provided your office with copies of the inspection reports. There was never any details in there for lettering being on that tank. The tank was originally a silver color. It was repainted sky blue, and the last time it was painted solid blue. Never did it have a band or writing on it for location.
You can see the word Uniondale. Let me show you the pictures.
I'd like to see pictures. We have other inspection pictures we also provided you at that time from the previous times.
I have them on my phone.
I'd like to see them. Thank you. No problem. We'll meet in the back and discuss this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Diane Madden.
This message is for Jay Jacobs. Don't make me make Goosby's gotta go signs and start flaring them. Yeah, well, believe me, we're ready because we've had it. And I want to tell you personally that we worked very hard not to get you elected as supervisor, but to get Supervisor Gillen elected as supervisor. So you may feel on a throne up there because that's how Santino made you feel, but you are no longer on a throne.
Nobody makes me
This-
feel.
this,
Just a minute, excuse me. You want me to answer you? Let me tell you something. I am myself. No one makes me do anything, and you can ask the supervisor that. I do what I feel is right for the people that I serve, and those are the people who vote for me, not you. Because some of the things that you say here, honey, if I had my way, you would.
Why don't you finish? Why don't you finish? Because this way, Mr. Ra can say, file a lawsuit. Mr. Ra, how come you didn't say
I know
to
about all of
Councilman
those.
Esposito,
I
my
know
mic keeps
about all the
turning
emails
off.
that
My
you
mic
sent
keeps
out.
getting turned off. Who's controlling my mic? Is it you?
No, he's not going to turn you off. You've never been turned
The
off.
mic,
so
the
keep
mic
going.
is being turned off.
No, it's
In
not.
any case, Mr. Ra, how come you didn't suggest to Esposito when he's allegedly being called a nitwit to file a lawsuit? This is for Mr. Blakeman. Does he have a representative here? I'd like to get this to him. This is for your chief of staff and only your chief of staff. I'd like to know how employees are hired here. I don't know if Mr. Salmon can answer, and I'm talking part-time, how commissioners are given jobs, deputy commissioners, this is done through board approval. Can anyone tell me that?
Commissioners, the commissioners are generally appointed and approved by the town board. The commissioners all here are from the prior, that are still in place, are all from the prior administration. What other questions did you have?
Beyond that, it's
Commissioners as
departmental
well?
requests with the approval of the board. Beyond that, it's basically departmental request with the approval of the board.
Deputy commissioners as well?
Correct.
How about part-timers, if someone were to hire or you needed part-time work and throughout the town?
It's departmental request.
Departmental request, okay. But it does not need board approval.
Yes, it does.
It needs part-timers? Well, that's interesting because there's been a lot of part-timers hired that have not been gone through board approval. Are you aware of that?
No.
Okay, well, I'll help you there. As far as the animal shelter, we have complete faith in you. I thank you for things that are being done behind the scenes, but understand that if you are relying on town board to help you, they have either been in on it or complicit to the problems there that are ongoing. What's hard to listen to is not just the animal neglect and mistreatment, but the staff that is still surviving in there. So I appreciate personally anything that you can expedite, including this fraudulent behavior contract. The town board approved 2 fraudulent contracts. They did away with one of them because that person did not have a political connection or hook on the 4th floor. The second they have continued to allow to ride out. This is harmful to the animals. What was said prior to me by Patty O'Miller, a lot of that speaks to incompetence that's taking place in the behavior department. And this is why you'll see pretty much Mr. Pastore and the behaviorist are on their own little island at the animal shelter.
I do think that there are members of the town board who are also very concerned about things going on at the animal shelter. As far as an illegal contract, we can speak about that after, and we'll look into that contract if it is in fact illegal. And we are dedicated to looking at the animal shelter and making a thorough investigation to make sure that any concerns, legitimate concerns, are addressed.
Well, believe me, we are all trusting the process. I have a lot of faith in you. We know the promises you made. We know you'll fulfill them in spite of your own obstacles and disruptors in place. I know fully what you're up against. I know the names, the players, the positions, what they've done, what they continue to do. Again, on a point of outside of the animal shelter, many employees are still being retaliated against that try to speak up. And this is, again, I don't know how you plan on getting these to them, but this is specifically for Mr. Blakeman, who I'm sorry is not here. Does he have a representative here?
Yes, Ms. Puglisi is here. She works on Mr. Blakeman, Councilman Blakeman's staff.
And your chief of staff as well?
Yes, he's here as well.
And lastly, the Tasner's list, all of the political appointees basically that went ahead of people like Ben Mento, who continues to fight cancer and make his way to pay his bills at the animal shelter, who was promised full-time work. When does this Tasner's list, I don't know what the hire date, when is their probation up?
6 months.
6 months. And what is their, because many of these people are political appointees and people that are very much involved with the Republican Club and were given priority over some very hardworking employees.
The Tasner list is the result of a federal court litigation that resulted in an agreement between the town of Hempstead and the town of Hempstead Civil Service Union.
Well, it worked out swimmingly for you guys because you just pick off of who's the most faithful politically. That didn't address the fact that there's one person in that animal shelter probably working harder than all of those people. So again, when was that signed? Because I am told that there are some of these people that should have been written up for conduct, including lateness, to say the least. That's not being done. When is their probation up?
6 months from the date of hire.
You know when they were hired? Oh, it was approved by the board through a resolution, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Which people are you talking about?
On the Tasner's list.
The Tasner people.
Right, because they have 6 months of probation, but the problem is Anthony Santino's plants are still in there, so no one's really getting written up. Just so you know, for that kind of behavior, things that you would normally get written up for, while people that have impeccable work records were never pulled off the Tasner's list. I think this is important for you to look at, and also even more important to follow through, and I know you will. We have a fiscal and operational audit that Tony Santino feared more than life itself because he was going to go under oath, as will Mr. Pastore, that needs to proceed as soon as possible.
Well, this is something I've been holding. I have not said it, but I'm finally going to say it because I hear things that I don't like. I know emails were sent to this town about me, and one was saying Dorothy Gooseby should get to the back of the bus, along with others. I don't appreciate it. I don't know which of you did it, but I know someone sitting in this audience probably did. So I'm going to tell you something. I will never get to the back of the bus. If anything, I will drive it because I'll always be in the front.
Well, as usual, you're positioning yourself as a victim. Certainly no one that I know, and certainly not myself, would ever say such a thing.
You said some things, honey, that I know about, so just let it go. I'm just telling you.
You're an elected official, correct? Correct? Right, that's okay. I do have a current lawsuit that can be amended. Because what you just insinuated is I would ever do something like that.
I call your name? Did I call your name?
No, but thank you for what you just said. Because it screams what the problems are on this board. Right. You're not the victim. The animals are the victims. The people that are not, for the most part, working or in this room. The hardworking employees that have to keep listening to, we appreciate our hardworking employees. No, you don't. No, you don't. They don't need accolades.
Madden, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to ask you to wrap up your comments.
Yes, they don't need accolades. They need protection. Thank you.
Next, I have Mary Ellen Cray.
Good afternoon, Mary Ellen Cray, 436 Locust Avenue in Uniondale. First of all, I just heard that Smith Street Park has been renamed Bernard Brown Park, and I applaud this recognition of a man who had a very strong impact on especially the youth of Uniondale. So I'm very happy to hear that. Did mention previously that the Uniondale Community Land Trust had bought its first house at the end of November, and we will be rehabbing that and preparing it for a sustainable resident. We're hoping that the permit process will be, that you will be helpful with us in the permit process.
We're already doing that, Mrs. McCray. They met with us before they got started, and our building department has been working very diligent with them. We pushed as much as we can legally.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
The other is, I know you're not the Board of Zoning Appeals, but I think you need to hear a little bit more on that issue. The developer has changed his proposal to make the proposed laundromat area smaller and the rest of the development a strip mall. I thought there was a moratorium on strip malls, and there certainly should be. I mean, we are the strip mall and laundromat capital of the town of Hempstead, and we would like to be assured that this would not be approved. I'm sorry? That there was a moratorium? Your microphone is not on.
Did you hear there was a change? They were trying to change the design of it.
Oh, yes, they said definitely. They wanted to make a smaller laundromat and add stores to the remainder of the area. So this really is, look, laundromats are anathema to us, but strip malls even more so, really seriously. This is not something that would benefit the community. And I strongly urge that you pass the word along that variances should only be given in something where there's an overriding improvement to the community, not something that will be of detriment. We don't need more delis, nail salons, and certainly no more laundromats. The other thing is, I'd like you to revisit the banning of banner flags, because I was told the reason they were banned was that some of them were in disrepair. Well, if you had American flags, and we've all seen this, where there are American flags in disrepair and flying bravely, certainly that would be much more overriding than the banner flags. And I'm sure there's a way of rephrasing that resolution so that there would be a threshold where if the banner flag is in disrepair, it would have to be removed.
Ms. McCray, I'm sorry.
Cray. The name is Cray, not McCray. I've been coming here for maybe 40 years, and it's about time.
Ms. Cray, I just want to point out, I think we had this discussion last time about the quote-unquote surfboard banners, the surfboard flags. That's what you're. So is Commissioner Rockamp here? I think you correct me if I'm wrong. Businesses are allowed to apply for a temporary permit, right?
I didn't know that.
So they could apply for a temporary permit, after 30 days, as long as it doesn't look like it's blowing down the street, then I believe that they could file again, right? So there you go.
That's good to know, and maybe there's a way to extend it to American flags, which, as I say, it's really disrespectful to have an American flag flying.
Yeah, but you could let the business owners know they can apply for a temporary permit.
Good, thank you very much.
You got it.
I'm sorry, this is hard to read. Ritwick, Mr. Ritwick? Rujit. Sorry about that.
Can I just interrupt for 1 second? I'm sorry, I was writing something and I wasn't paying attention, and my apologies for that. But they need a temporary permit for American flags?
No, not American flag. It's you know what they call them, surfboard flags, yes. Like outside gas stations. So we have a law against them, but you can apply for a 30-day permit just for those. It has nothing to do with American flags.
You just mentioned American flag, and
I'm not sure. I know that the law has nothing to do with American flags. Commissioner, right?
Nothing to do with American.
Make sure. Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Rich Ujic, West Islip, New York. I just wanted to revisit something that was spoken about earlier. My friend Jim Alkis, he came up here. He was commenting on the plumbing board. And it kind of seemed to me, and forgive me if I'm wrong, a gentleman stepped up after him, and it kind of looked to me like he was rebutting everything he said. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But I just wanted it to be clear to the board and everyone present that Mr. Alkis has been plumbing for approximately 32 years and is, in fact, a master plumber. I know that when he took his test, one of the members there was a local 200 member. I just wanted to clear that with everybody and let you know that he's got credentials, and just because you own a business doesn't mean that that business doesn't have many divisions, whether it's a fuel oil business or whatnot. So I just wanted to let the board know that and everyone present.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Val Lamp.
Good afternoon.
Can you address for the record?
Valerie Lamp, 2506 Baldwin, New York. I'm here today specifically on the animals. I can't even tell you what I had to do to get here in time to make this meeting, but I am heartbroken, and I'm at a loss of words. So here's what's going on. Okay, I paid a visit to the animal shelter about a month ago, and I can tell you honestly that no one even approached me. I was there for a substantial amount of time. I'm falling in love with one animal in particular who was recovering from a surgery, an invasive surgery, and I cannot fathom why she was in the general area, which is, as the workers and staff will tell you, it is a stressful area because all the dogs are barking and it's tough for them to recover. But nobody even took an interest in me if I was interested in adopting an animal or fostering an animal or volunteering. And in addition to that, I witnessed personally a volunteer who was discouraging a family, a mother, a father, and a child from interacting with one of the dogs that was in the hallway. And I'm telling you, all of these people who got involved and who are animal lovers and advocates, we care about the animals. We don't give anything else about party lines, anything. I don't care about, who does what for a living. We care about compassion for these animals, and I'm calling again for the removal of Pistori, as well as this behaviorist who's not a true behaviorist. She is not qualified. They recently decided to start feeding these animals at 4 o'clock in the morning. This jeopardizes the ability for the animals to sleep. They barely sleep as it is. Most dogs keep the schedule of their owners. How many of you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning? Erin, I know you're an exception because you do your 4:45 workout. But regardless, most animals are not on that feeding schedule, and they can't sleep during the day because they're surrounded by 100 dogs who are barking and nervous and stressed. what's happening here, this is the largest township in the country. We should have the best animal shelter. We should be an example to all of the other shelters. We should be providing the best, most qualified people, not people who don't care, not people who bully their staff for caring, not volunteers who discourage people from adopting. I couldn't believe my own eyeballs and ears, okay? And I looked at the dog. They said, don't talk to that dog like that. Don't get too close to the cage because it will invoke aggression. The dog was begging for attention. The tail was wagging like crazy. It's not their place, first of all, and second of all, it's wrong. To see now this wannabe behaviorist, okay, who is rolling out a, quote, enrichment plan that is a joke. She's talking about feeding these animals bagels. That yeast is in the top, one of the top things to never feed your dog. Why? Because it rises just like yeast rises everywhere else. It can rupture their stomachs. You know, it's not about the food. Even though peanut butter is also on the list, which is completely comprised of sugar, another ingredient you should never give your dog if you love them, if you care about them. And this is the person who's in charge of evaluations. She's coming out with this enrichment program. We might as well put antifreeze in their water. This is a joke. This is an atrocity. I can't take it anymore. And you know what, Laura? I know you. I know you, and I trust you to keep your promise. There is no tomorrow. There's not. We have these people, they're ignoring the animals that need care. There was a dog with a metal blockage in their system for 10 days. They did not receive the medical attention that it deserves. It was suffering for 10 days. I was in pain the other day for 10 seconds, and it felt like a lifetime. I'm sorry to be emotional. No, I'm not. I don't give a shit. I'm not sorry. I don't care. Okay? It is what it is. But this is like that scene in Jaws, you know? You're our Chief Brody. We're relying on you to tell everyone that there's a shark in the water and to do something about it. Remember that scene where the widow got up and slapped him because she lost her son because she found out he knew there's a shark in the water? These are not the appropriate people to run the animal shelter. We need you to get them out.
Is Mr. Pastore here? Is Mr. Pastore here? Mr. Pastore, is he here?
Oh, I love that.
No, okay.
The animal shelter here.
Mr. Pastore is not here. Please, we'll speak to you, Ms. Lamp, afterwards about the dog that you just described with the metal and the surgery dog, and we'll look into it for you. Is there anybody else who would like to be heard today?
Felix Procacci, 1165 Bond Street, Franklin Square. It was in the paper that you were going to file a lawsuit against the CSCA memorandum that gave, you know, lifetime employment. I guess that never happened. In that respect, Mr. Ambrosino's reason for voting for it, I got the Johnson City case. And the Johnson City case, in summary, says that if the clause is not explicit, it can be overlooked. And the Court of Appeals in the Johnson City case said it wasn't explicit, and that's why they overturned it and allowed the layoffs to occur in that fire department. But then in that same case, in the same discussion by this law firm that did an analysis of this, said there was a clause in a teachers union, Yonkers Federation of Teachers Union. The clause was explicit, so it was legally binding. Now, we haven't determined whether it's legally binding or not by any analysis. No one's done any discussion, and we haven't had any meetings about it, which it should be. And once again, I'm very disheartened that we're not even on ethical terms, because I brought up direct passages from our current ethics law why voting for this, Mr. D'Esposito and Mr. Santino and Mr. Dunn, we're not allowed to vote on this for ethical reasons, that at least, even if we can't overturn that, that someone didn't put forward an ethics advisory opinion to see what our illustrious ethics board would say to that. I urge Supervisor Gillen to allow the Nassau County Comptroller into the animal shelter.
Mr. Procacci, if I could just interrupt you for a minute. With respect to the amendment to the CBA agreement, I said that I was exploring all legal options. We are exploring options. I don't support the amendment to the CBA agreement personally, but I'm not at liberty right now to comment on our legal strategy.
That's fine, but you should oppose all raises until that is effect, because we don't know, like I said, based on the outcome of that legal thing. I don't know what the courts would say, but we should oppose all raises.
The raises were for exempt employees who are not subject.
Well, that's what they say, but they all could be transferred to protected positions. So the idea that's an illusion. That's like just Anyway, I want to go on. I hope you let the Nassau County Comptroller in immediately to analyze the animal shelter in an operational basis. That's the only way to do it, and you will
something that's being looked into.
And you will find, as Dinopoli found, but he threw it aside and didn't push it. You should read that audit. It was horrendous. They never took any actions to remedy any of the problems. It was. I won't go into all the details because I got limited time. I also urge you to propose legislation at the next meeting to conspicuously post job openings on the town's website, because that little thing, let someone vote against it. Let's see who votes against that one. Make it legislation, because that will prohibit or prevent future problems, because a lot of these problems are people problems that we're talking about here, whether it's whatever manifestation we're talking about, begins with the people that we hire. And by opening that up, it's not going to cure all, but it's going to slow down the infection. Also, I urge you at the next meeting to propose legislation, a resolution to rescind the windows in restaurants law, unless you personally can tell me why it's necessary for the health and safety of residents. And also on the Billy Dean case, I foiled documents. Mr. Amarini, it's on appeal. He said that they have no invoices going back to March of 2017. Now, if Beckman Hennick is intentionally withholding invoices for some reason for an accounting purpose, I think that's unethical. Why they wouldn't be billing as they're going on, I provided all the court documents that shows they've been working. Why a law firm wouldn't bill for work they're doing in March by December, January of the following year, I don't know, but that's a very big problem. One last thing, Mr. Clavin. Mr. Clavin has asked New York State to reimburse his department $100,000 plus for all the overtime. Mr. Clavin willingly, without any protest, took a $205,000 confidential secretary, which his own department, his own budget, says should only be paid $91,580. Now, I'm not going to argue whether he needs it or not, although that position hasn't been filled from my understanding. He's paying $113,000 more for Michael Deary, plus another $300,000 or something, $275,000 for other employees. He didn't make any issue over that, but he's making an issue over the $100,000. And he shut down the email service. He shut down the phone line. He encouraged people to come in. It was all publicity stunt so he could give out coffee and campaign on taxpayer dime. That's all it's about. It's nothing else. And I was one of those people, just please give me a few seconds. I was one of those people who wanted to prepay their taxes. I went every day to Nassau County's website to see what amount I had to pay. When I found out how much my taxes were, I right away notified everybody in my Facebook circles and everything else to tell them that it's online. You don't have to wait in the freezing cold weather to do that. Mr. Clavin did not get I didn't get a robocall for that. I didn't get an email for that. But I got that prior to that incident to come to the office. He encouraged you to come to the office. That's the worst thing. We live in a technological society. He should have said, email us your section block number. We'll send you the amount. We'll scan it in, and we'll send you how much you have to pay. You don't have to stand in line.
I just want to point out, Mr. Clavin is an independently elected official, so I do not control how and what he does.
I agree with that, but This is on the town's website. It's fake news. It's Donald Clavin's press release. Hempstead slammed with major costs to process 2018 property tax prepayments. Why didn't he do that for Michael Deary? Why didn't he do that for the other $300,000 of employees he took willingly that weren't budgeted for? But there's money for it because you can move it from one part of the general fund to the other. But he didn't have enough salary and adjustments in the original 2018 budget to absorb all those people. The budget had to be changed. The money from the salary adjustments had to be moved to his office to do it. He didn't complain about that. He did not complain about that, but he wants Governor Cuomo and in the state of New York to pick up $100,000 in overtime. He encouraged, instead of telling people how much they had to pay so they didn't have to come into the office. It was all a political stunt. It was all a political stunt.
Mr. Procacci, if you want to talk about a political stunt, you can also look at things that Governor Cuomo has been doing lately as he runs for president on the backs of the New York State taxpayers. So let's be equal in our treatment of people.
Well, I'm not going to talk about Governor Cuomo here. You want me to?
I'm more than happy to talk about Governor Cuomo running for president on the backs of New York State taxpayers as we try to provide our best services in the town of Hempstead. So let's do that.
With you, I didn't vote for Governor Cuomo last.
Good.
Just to let you know, I am my Rob Astor shirt.
Thank
I have the sticker on my car too.
Thank you, Mr. Procacci. Is there anybody else who'd like to be heard? Thank you all. Have a great day.
Michelle.
What am I supposed to say?